demonstrates the passion and commitment to our community has had for making our city a safer place. We genuinely appreciate the opportunity to address your concerns directly. On January 15th, City Council had a special legislative meeting to vote on the DOJ grant. The vote was 5-2 to approve the grant and the $1 million funding. Councilmember Dillon is disappointed he was not able to join us today, but he did vote in support. Chief Hall was also unable to attend today. As you all know, he has been interviewed a number of times and has been consistent in his position on how these funds will be used. I will read Chief Hall's statement. I want to reassure our community that accepting funding through the fiscal year 2025 DOJ COPS hiring program does not change our immigration policies or our commitment to constitutional, community-focused policing. Participation in the program requires that we follow existing federal law regarding lawful information sharing. It does not mean Spokane officers will enforce federal civil immigration law, question people about their immigration status during routine policing, or detain anyone on civil immigration matters without independent legal authority. If we don't collect that information, we do not have it to share. Our long-standing policy remains clear. Spokane officers do not stop, detain, or arrest individuals solely based on the suspected immigration status. Victims and witnesses can be protected regardless of their immigration status. Additionally, our officers do not conduct immigration sweeps, checkpoints, or routine status inquiries. In full compliance with the Keep Washington Working Act, our goal is to ensure everyone feels safe calling the police, reporting crimes, and cooperating with investigations. He goes on to say, the Spokane Police Department fully complies with all federal grant conditions while maintaining local control, community trust, and constitutional policing. The COPS hiring program simply helps us hire and keep officers, strengthening our neighborhood policing, improving efforts to reduce violence, and enhance public safety, all without raising local taxes. Chief Hall says, bottom line, Spokane can accept this grant without compromising who we are, our values, or how we police. Our focus remains, just as it always has, on keeping our community safe, protecting rights, and serving all residents with fairness and respect, regardless of immigration status. Those are words from Chief Hall. Thank you, Chief. Since the vote, we have heard from our nonprofits and communities of color. They have shared their concerns that due to the expedited vote, their voices were not heard. As Council President, I stand by my vote to support Chief Hall and his efforts to increase our police force, and I support our communities in keeping them safe and fighting back against the current federal administration and its policies. This funding is not just financial support. It is an investment in the safety and well-being of our residents. I understand there are concerns regarding federal regulations tied to this grant. Let me be clear. Accepting this funding does not obligate our city to comply with any federal mandates or executive orders. Our local leadership will retain full authority, our policing policies and practices in line with the needs of our community. Our commitment is to local decision-making. We value your input and will create avenues for community engagement so your concerns and ideas are heard and prioritized. The alarming rise in gun violence in our communities require immediate action. This grant will enable us to expand our resources for training and supporting our officers, ensuring they are prepared to handle sensitive situations with care and professionalism. Your voice matters in shaping our approach to our community safety. Let's work collaboratively to ensure that every member of our community feels safe, valued, and involved in this process. At this point, I'm going to have council members opponent come and say a few words.
Thanks for being here, and I first have to say that I agree with absolutely everything that Council President Wilkerson just said. We took this vote together and talked and debated these issues, and want to take the time to say that we are listening to community and having heard them over the last couple weeks, just wanting to clarify some misinformation or misunderstandings, in my classroom we call them misconceptions about this legislation or this grant that we accepted, and the concerns. When I talked to people at their houses last year and over the last 4 years, I heard from people every single day who had concerns for safety in their neighborhoods. Everyone in Spokane deserves to feel safe. That includes immigrants in our community deserve to feel safe. We all want to reduce gun violence in our community. And we support community-oriented policing, which is police officers building relationships with community members and talking to folks. These are our federal tax dollars that we pay in our income taxes every year. This is us receiving and accepting the dollars that we are already paying to the federal government. So I want to keep standing up to the federal government and demand our taxpayer dollars are being spent in our community the way that we want to spend them and use them. I stand with my fellow council members who voted for this funding because we all believe that we can't capitulate to the federal government. We have to stand up to them. We have opposed the terror that ICE has been wreaking on our community. Just this week, we saw that an elementary student was taken from our community. And these things are wrong. It is absolutely wrong. We've heard just now, again in a statement, we heard the day of the vote from our police chief that accepting this grant will change absolutely nothing about what we do here in Spokane. The city will not collect immigration status, and so there's nothing to share with the federal government. If accepting federal dollars doesn't change what we're doing in our community and we can keep doing the way of governing the way that we want to govern, we should accept those dollars. Otherwise, it would just hurt our own community. If we set a standard of rejecting federal dollars just because of stipulations that the federal government puts in their applications, this would have real impacts, not just to policing. It would have impacts in housing and transportation, infrastructure, things that our constituents and residents have been asking for and demanding change in our community. So if accepting dollars were to change what we had to do here, then I would be concerned about it. But hearing directly from our officials, it's not going to change what we do here. So I'll continue to support the efforts of our state leaders like the governor, the attorney general, our legislature to stand up to the federal overreach that we're seeing in our state. And I will continue to support policies and our values here in Spokane so we can keep governing the way that we need to and living the way that we need to here in Spokane and keep fighting back against the overreach of the federal government. And I think Councilmember Tellis is next.
Thank you for being here. To our immigrant community and communities of color, we hear you and we stand by you. We are living in a moment of profound uncertainty marked by fear and unprecedented abuses of federal power. How this era ends will be decided either in the courts or the ballot box or both. But Spokane should not wait for another election to stand up for itself. The 5 council members who voted to accept this funding strongly believe that any condition that require our police to share immigrant information with ICE is unconstitutional and violates our state law, specifically the Keep Washington Working Act. Rejecting federal funding outright is not a victory. If Spokane walks away from these dollars, the money does not disappear. It goes to jurisdictions willing to comply with these authoritarian demands. This is not a choice we are willing to make. We are accepting this grant because it funds community policing and gun violence prevention, investments that will help rebuild trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. We can all agree that there is significant work to do in Spokane and across the country to strengthen these relationships. Accepting this funding is an important first step in that work. For Spokane, declining federal funds for the next 3 years is simply not a viable financial option. Abuses of power must be called out and confronted, and that is exactly what we are doing. Going forward, as chair of the Public Safety and Community Health Committee, I will require greater public notice on agenda items like this to ensure time for meaningful public input. I will also ensure that all materials submitted to the committee are complete before they are heard. Finally, I am committed, along with other council members, to continue conversations with leaders of communities of color and our immigrant community to see how we can support one another best during these unprecedented times. We are one community. Attempts to divide us will continue, but Spokane will meet this moment together, and we will come through it stronger, more united, and more resilient than ever. Thank you, and I now turn it over to Councilmember Klitsky.
Thanks everyone for being here. I think that my fellow council members kind of covered our votes pretty succinctly and thoroughly. So I kind of wanted to put my community organizer hat back on. I have 20 years of experience as a community organizer, actually more than 20 years, in Spokane. And one of the core tenets I feel of community organizing is to make sure that the strategies that you use and the way that you make your point when you're standing up for whatever your issue is that it leaves you stronger than you were before when you took on that issue. And so this strategy that we have chosen to stand up for states' rights, stand up for cities' rights, and accept the federal funding that we competed for and earned, that our tax dollars paid for, rather than eschew receiving federal funding because someone in the executive branch chose to add a bunch of stipulations to this grant, some previous grants that we have gone after, and very, very foreseeably future grants. And then stand up for our state rights and city rights by not capitulating to those stipulations is the right strategy. Because when the executive branch tries to attach things that the legislative branch created, the legislative branch is supposed to have the purse strings. The legislative branch creates these pots of money, and the legislative branch should be standing up for itself and making sure that those pots of money that they set aside are properly being distributed without executive branch strings attached to them to our communities. Otherwise, they're ceding their power. And so we should all be standing up for that separation of government. We should not be letting the executive branch say that their executive orders apply to recipients of federal funds. It's just not right. So I think this is the right strategy to stand up to that. We are still entitled to the federal funding we have always used to support our infrastructure and to keep our communities running. You're paying for those tax dollars, and we should bring them back to Spokane, but we also need to stand up against that federal overreach. And I think it's appropriate for citizens to be engaging in keeping our community fabric together and keeping our city operating well and reaching out to each other and banding together to stand up for our rights, and also letting our Congress members know that they need to stand up for us too. This is a federal level problem that we are dealing with at the local level. And so engagement in both levels of government is appropriate, but I think it's especially important right now when we're facing times of federal overreach and uncertainty to keep our community fabric as strong as it can be and to work together to stand up against that. And that includes all of our public services, that includes our police, that includes everybody. We need to work together to make sure that Spokane is still the place that we've always wanted it to be, which is a place that has always welcomed immigrants, always welcomed refugees, always done a great job making people part of Spokane without expecting them to completely assimilate into everybody's other culture. We do a great job preserving people's individual cultures here when they come here, and it's what makes us such a vibrant and beautiful community. And in Spokane, we all belong, and we need to continue to stand up for that, and I think this is the most strategic way to do it. And I'm proud of my fellow council members for doing that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Klitsky. At this time, we have former Council President Ben Stuckert, who's had some personal experience in this area. He's going to come up and say a few words. Ben, welcome.
Hi, my name is Ben Stuckert. I'm here to talk to the folks that are frustrated about the City Council accepting a federal government grant that included weird embedded statements. I saw media reports and social media expressing this frustration. I wanted to address it both from the perspective of someone who spent 8 years as City Council President, I'm sorry, I'm out of breath, but also someone who has had the last 6 months of my life upended by ICE. I have more reason than most in Spokane to be concerned. Under no circumstances would I support accepting funds, whether it be for low-income housing, which is my job and we accept federal funds, or additional officers to work on anti-gun violence if there were 1 minute it meant that it included enforceable stipulations to pass over and cooperate with an agency who is kidnapping young children and detaining U.S. citizens by going door to door. But we elect our City Council members to take all the information into account, seek legal advice, and make the best decision possible. In this case, the courts have looked at these stipulations and as recently as last week made rulings that they are not enforceable. The Washington State AG's office, the police chief, and city legal pointed out to the City Council that our state and local laws protect Spokane citizens from these stipulations. We have to rely on the courts, the legal department, and our local police. Spokane is still in the midst of decreasing revenues, and we want to provide the best services possible. If you go talk to neighbors, neighborhood councils, that is what you will hear. We live in an increasingly scary, unkind, and unstable world, and it's not of our choosing. We can choose to focus our frustration locally and continue to spin our wheels, or we can choose to be courageous and focus our collective energy opposing the systems that are separating families, shooting mothers in the face, denying medical care, and threatening to destroy 75 years of world prosperity. Let's choose the courageous priorities and try to make this world a better place by taking that misplaced anger and frustration and focus it on where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. At this time, I'll just entertain questions from the media, if there are any. Yes.
So,
are you media?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Harding, independent media. Trump is famous now for having deleted a massive police accountability database and made it easier for police to be corrupt. Exactly why would we believe that accepting money from this administration would not result in further corruption of local police, especially when they were the ones deployed on protesters this year, not ICE?
So I can speak to what's happening at the federal level and what Trump is doing. My focus here is I'm elected locally, and what our police chief is doing and what our officers are doing and what we are supporting. We have heard time and time again that is not the strategy of Chief Hall. His department has been changing. We have seen the changes. They have been positive. We continue to support him. We'll continue to monitor. We ask all community, you all have your eyes on us. If it's not working, that has never stopped anyone in this community from coming to council and speaking their mind or calling us out on any of those issues. I expect nothing less with this grant as we go forward. So again, as elected locals, with our focus on the city, this is where I can make the impact this council and what we can monitor and oversee going forward. But we need to keep our eyes on that because we know it is out there. I wish I had a more definitive answer for you, but that's all we can say at this point in time. Yes?
If you're responding to continued misconceptions, do you have any listening sessions planned or roundtables with the this?
We are working with our equity officer, Alex Gibilisco, to be setting those up, to hear their voices. I know the mayor is also having listening sessions as well. We will continue to make that a priority, and again, because of the expedited nature of this vote, they did not have time, and honestly, some of them did not feel safe to come down there and speak their concerns. So we will be making those safe spaces for them to talk directly to us, and you'll hear more about that from us and from them, but those will be intimate groups, and they'll be able to invite in. We'll let them drive those people who are in attendance. Yes, and then I'll go to you.
You know, last year you guys passed the resolution in support of the Keep Washington Working Act. We've heard from a lot of the council members individually and from the dais on how important it is to you to protect the immigrant community. I think Councilmember Klitzky called the regime of living under fascism. Today we've heard a lot about what local government can't do. I guess I'm curious, are you guys looking at any options for what the local government can do to protect people from ICE?
Again, I can only reiterate what Chief Hall has said. Yes, it's Keep Washington Working. That's our big umbrella from the state, working with the AG's office. We're local government, so you all know the layers of government. There's federal, there's state, there's local. The Keep Washington Working Act was implemented at the state level. We are operating under that umbrella with those protections from the Keep Washington Work Act going forward, and we are looking at the laws and ordinances that we are making are in compliance and not in opposition to that. So we are doing what we can do at the local level. We know we have limited resources to implement a lot of the things our community would like to see going forward. We know we are challenged with that. That's why it really has to be a collaboration. It just can't be us as government up here. It has to be community as well. And so we're asking community to step up too and speak up and show up to really be in support of the work that is happening. And again, when it's not working, call us out on that. We are listening.
Would you mind clarifying the two council members who voted against the grant and then in summary why they were against it?
I cannot speak. They spoke on the dais to that. That was Councilmember Cathcart and Councilmember Dixit voted in opposition of accepting this Department of Justice grant. I know Councilmember Cathcart has spoke. He has some concerns about the stipulations, which again had been reviewed by our legal, and they were confident that we could accept this grant and go forward. I see you back there behind the lights. Yep, that's you. Just turned around. I can't see. Nate.
Chief Hall had mentioned at the Thursday meeting that your grants have stipulations that you are worried would be enforceable. What's the plan going forward? I mean, we're talking about this grant. We believe we don't need to comply in any additional way, and we need this money. We can't say no to federal grants for the next 3 years. What's the strategy moving forward?
The strategy is we are prepared to send the money back. If we find, and Chief Hall finds, that really we cannot implement this grant the way that he has seen it and the way it was applied for, then the money will be returned. That is the most simplest of answers I can give. Any other council members want to comment on that? Councilmember Klitzky?
Thank you. I think we have to decide those on a per grant basis, but if there are ones that we feel that are critical that we need and that there are provisions in there, luckily we were just at the Association of Washington Cities lobby days. We have 2 Association of Washington Cities board members amongst us. We do have the ability to talk to other cities and to try to band together with solutions. I know I've been watching Chicago and Boston a lot in some of their pushback, especially Chicago. Some of these, so in this particular grant, I talked to a former mayor of another city this week. The stipulations that we were discussing as a community, those have been challenged in court successfully already. Are we ever going to be the first city to challenge them, or are we going to team up with the Attorney General and challenge them? We haven't made any decisions about anything like that going forward, but I think as cities in the United States, we have to help each other and keep raising these challenges, we benefit every time another city wins in court. So that's good for us. We also have some legislative approaches that we can look at. There's bills out there that we're supporting to try to stand up for some of these things. There's a bill looking at preventing law enforcement from wearing masks. There's bills looking at maybe not giving money to the federal government if they try to put stipulations on our money. I don't know how that would work, but we are watching those bills. Some of those bills are our priorities. So at the legislative level, the state level, we're also looking at ways to push back and ways to stand up for our rights as cities.
And also, just for clarification on what was said at the Thursday meeting, Chief Hall has already testified on Thursday that there are several grants that he has reviewed that had conditions that he thought would not allow us to say what we're saying here, we would not be able to accept them and also remain to uphold the Keep Washington Working Act. So, and those conditions haven't even come before us because he decided himself it was not a grant worth pursuing.
I have a quick follow-up. I've been covering you guys for a while, and I feel like I have seen in a lot of places the ways that oppositional government can slow things down even at the city level, right? Like, you guys have control over things like permitting. I've heard from activists that they've been reporting ICE vehicles that are parked illegally. There's, the GEO group that is transporting people to and from this facility. And I guess I'm curious, if this is a priority for you to make the community feel safe, what are some of the creative ways that you think that the local government can actually approach this issue beyond just signing on to things that the state might be doing?
I think we are being very proactive through our own community policing to support our citizens within the law that we have to work within. There are some federal laws. Our police are not going to go out and arrest ICE agents. Let's just put that out there. Chief Hall has said that that's not their role. They're not going to be in combat with federal immigrant officers going forward. I have to remind people, yes, we want government to move fast, but government was never designed to move fast because when the bottom line is, we're dealing with your tax dollars. And there is a level of responsibility to acknowledge that and to respect that process. Yes, it is absolutely frustrating that we just can't come in here and just say, we want Chief Hall to go out there and do that right now. There is a process for that to happen. And remember, we are the legislative body. We are not the administrative body. So we do not supervise staff directly. That's the administration. We do work in tandem, but really a lot of that particular questions you're asking is really on the administration side to respond to. All right, this will be my last question and we will wrap this up. Thank you.
So there's a lot of talk right now about how the city of Spokane needs a significant amount of money to fund the police. There's less conversation about why such funds are needed and if the laws themselves are even excessive. Let me ask, do you really think that the full breadth of laws on the books, that all of these police are allegedly necessary to enforce, are necessary? And if not, then as a legislative body, would you do more to reduce things like victimless crimes that put innocent people in jail, and the poor especially minorities, especially during a time when they're already being penalized for existing in a certain body by the federal government? Do you think that they need more help from the local government on that sort of front?
So first of all, the need for more public safety officers or policing. I do believe we need more. Our community says they need more, and it's not just around this whole immigrant thing. It's around traffic. It's around domestic violence. It's around crimes that are happening in our community. What I will speak to, though, and I have said it before and I'll say it again, I do believe we need a good review of a lot of our laws that are on the books, and I think they can be repealed. I think that's something we need to take on as a council. We've been talking a lot about that, and I think that's something going forward we should be working in tandem with Chief Hall's. Laws that were needed back in 1989, even maybe back in 2015, are not effective, and the reason they were written, The reason it no longer exists. I have several examples I won't go into right now that I have some frustrations around that as well. So as a community, we need to always not be looking forward, but there needs to be a look back. If the laws that are on the books are effective in doing what they were designed to be done. Thank you all again for being here with us today. We just want to reaffirm those conversations will be happening, that we are listening to our community, and there will be more to come. Thank you again.